Hello and welcome to Brit Sci-Fi from the National Space Centre. A massive thanks to all of our guests, contributors, groups and individuals who are making this event happen, and to you for joining us. The National Space Centre is about to reopen, so please do check our website. We'd love to see you again. But we're here to celebrate British science fiction, and one of the most iconic TV shows that we have is Doctor Who. So I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by the fantastic David Bradley. Good afternoon, how are you?
Good afternoon, Malika. Nice to see you.
How have
Yeah.
you been? How have you been keeping? Have you been busy?
Yes. Last year was a bit quiet, like for all of us, but things are picking up now, and I'm back working, which is great.
It is fantastic. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a hiccup in the middle there, but we won't talk about that one. We're here to talk about much more exciting things.
Yeah.
So we've asked your fans on Facebook to submit questions in advance. So we've got some questions for you. So I'm going to kick off straight away because we've had lots submitted. So Corinne on Facebook has asked, you portrayed William Hartnell both as the Doctor and as himself playing the Doctor. Did you watch
Yeah.
him in Doctor Who when it first aired?
I am young enough to have experienced that, yes. He was my first Doctor, but I actually don't remember the first one because the preoccupation was with the assassination of John Kennedy on the night it was supposed to screen. And I think it did screen, but nobody saw it. So, as we saw in Adventure in Space and Time, um, it was a miracle that it got off the ground at all because of the attention was focused on Kennedy. But I do remember him very well, and I found him slightly alarming, and the music alarming, and he was my first Doctor. Yeah,
It's funny, isn't it? We always remember our first Doctor, don't we? So
yeah,
that was your first Doctor.
yeah,
Yeah, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Colin Baker's my Doctor of my the first one that I remember. And
right,
I was very lucky. I got to speak to Colin quite recently. So and his puppet.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
Brilliant.
I see Colin quite a lot at various conventions. You know, it's great to meet so many of the former Doctors as I
You're
have done.
you're part of a Who family now.
Well, I think I can say that. I couldn't say it after Adventure in Space and Time because I was playing the actor playing Doctor Who. But after Twice Upon a Time, I felt I could call myself part of the. I've actually played Doctor Who, so yeah.
No, absolutely. Right, on to another question. Benjamin on Facebook has asked, what was it like to be part of an adventure in space and time and to delve into the history of the show?
Well, because I knew the show and remembered it, as I said, I didn't know the full story behind it. In fact, I wasn't even aware at the time that events in Dallas would postpone it. I didn't know anything about William Hartnell's background. Fortunately, I had a bit of help from some of the original cast, the ones still around, and his granddaughter, Angela, who wrote a wonderful book called Who's There? And it gives a lot of info about his upbringing, his early career as an actor, and his personal struggles, which Mark Gatiss brought out beautifully in the script. All well, he was a complex man, a brilliant actor, but a complex man. So I found out quite a lot about him and the story behind the creation of this iconic series, which I just was totally unaware of. After so many years, you kind of take it for granted. Doctor Who's always been there and always will be there. So you don't. I was just unaware of how it was first born, so to speak.
Yeah, I think we all learnt an awful lot from Adventures in Space and Time because obviously we've all seen the show and we know the Doctor, but we weren't aware of the undiagnosed medical problems. We weren't aware of the relationship breakdowns of the new teams that were working there, and we don't know any of that from any show that we watch on television. It is
Yeah,
purely that sort of, we just see what we see on the screen. We don't know what's going on behind. So it was
no,
really
right,
fascinating to watch as a
yeah,
fan and
yeah,
learn all of that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tessa has asked, you mentioned Mark Gatiss. Tessa's question was, Mark Gatiss wrote a brilliant script for Adventures in Space and Time, but
Yes.
did you have any influence on the production during the filming? And did you feel it was a fair reflection of William Hartnell?
Well, first, the first part of the question is that I have any influence. The only influence I had was saying yes before he changed his mind, and even without reading the script, I knew it would be um, a really terrific piece of writing because I know Mark's work. I didn't know him personally, and so yes, I just said yes and looked forward to reading. And when I read it, I was just astonished at what he'd written. There were several drafts before we landed on the final shooting script, of course, and but each time I read a new one, I just found out more about um, this complex man who happened to be a brilliant actor. And but no, I had no input on the script or anything. I just knew it was a great piece of work, and I didn't, I would have dreamed of saying, but surely you can do a bit more of this or a bit less of that, because I thought it didn't try and do a soft focus on the man. It showed him warts and all, so to speak. And I think the more any actor will say about any great role, the more complex it is, the more contradictions there are in there, and the more complex the character, good or bad, you welcome it. And it was all there. I didn't need to. I just had to act it really. Thankfully, I had a lot of DVDs sent to me by the BBC, um, capturing his mannerisms, his way of speaking, and so I had quite a lot to go on, as well as I said before, his granddaughter's book about him, which was very revealing.
I think after seeing you play the part, there is no way that they could have had anybody else play it. So I don't think you were ever at risk of saying anything but yes.
Well, you never know.
No, it was a great part. But then great
Yeah,
writing and great actors create
yeah.
something magical. So, that's what
Thank
we
you.
had.
Thank you.
No, it was great.
Thank
So Benjamin on Facebook. So Benjamin's asked a few questions, but they are good questions, so we're going to get them in.
Okay.
What is your favourite role you've played in Doctor Who universe? So he's mentioned voicing the Shan Sheath, playing Solomon, playing Hartnell, or playing the First Doctor.
Well, I think because I mean I love playing Solomon because he was just so wicked, and I found a grain of humour in it. I mean, for someone who goes on a spaceship the size of Canada, um, he's obviously trodden on a few toes along the way, and he was just a wonderful villain, and especially the makeup. I mean, I was so many scars, and it was great fun, and that was my first Doctor Who experience, and I assumed at the time it would be my last one. But I have to say, playing William Hartnell uh, and then the Doctor, I would. It's impossible for me to decide which one I enjoyed most because they were both. Um, with playing Hartnell in Adventure, I had to be careful to recreate the man because the fans and his performance as the Doctor, because the fans know more than anybody and about how it should be, and so I had to make sure I portrayed him as accurately as possible. But with Twice Upon a Time, I could have a bit more fun with it, in the sense that I was free to make the Doctor my own Doctor, in a sense, and just it was lighter, and working with Peter Capaldi, who was a great actor as well, and so I would be hard pushed to say which I enjoyed most, but I was very, for the second one, for Twice Upon a Time, I was just so grateful that they brought him back, because I thought, well, I must have done something right the first time.
You're quite right about the fans know more than anybody else about things. I remember when Lord of the Rings, one of the episodes came out, the Radio 4 phone-in the next day was the discussion about the Balrog and should he have had wings, and there were just hundreds of phone calls telling Peter Jackson and his entire team, well, no, actually, I think if you find the third paragraph in the book, clearly
I know.
They're there. They know more.
Yes.
Oh, and Doctor Who has some of the most passionate fans as well. They love the series, and you know, you understand why. It's a great show that has gone through multiple generations. And like I say, Adventures in Space and Time was great because we got behind the scenes, so it gave us that understanding of where it all began.
Yes. Yeah.
You've mentioned that you enjoyed playing opposite Peter Capaldi, but would you like to return as the First Doctor at some point?
Oh, just say when. Yes, it would be. There are some of the stories that we've done for audio, for Big Finish. And when I first started seeing the scripts for those, I thought, are these actual scripts written at the time? That have just been discovered, because they were so authentic, and some of the adventures we went on were amazing. And I thought, oh, it'd be great just to film some of these, you know, with the same team that we had on Adventure.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Finish stuff is phenomenal because it gives you that opportunity to expand the character or to take the journey further. And also, it's great if you've got a good imagination because you can you visualise what you want. They're great things to be part of. Anthony on Facebook would like to know, if you could play a monster or villain on the show, which monster or villain would you like to be?
Ooh. Well, I found the Cybermen the most alarming when I saw them on the set for Twice Upon a Time. It freaked me a little bit, seeing these faceless beings, because you don't know what's behind it. You don't know what they're into or what they're thinking, if they are thinking. But I have to say, it would have to be a Dalek. Of course it would. Because, well, you get to sit down the whole time. You don't have to learn it. You got someone else doing the voice off stage. So all you do is push this little thing around, threatening people, and getting away with it. And it's an actor's dream.
I have to admit, at this stage, I own a Dalek, and so I know exactly what.
Do you really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Next time
you get inside it and control around the living room.
Yeah, well, not around the living room. He's big red. He's the Supreme Dalek, so he's rather large. But next time, if you come back and join us at the Space Centre anytime, you can get in and have a drive, and we'll ask Nick Briggs if he'll do a voice.
Oh, that would be a nice. That'll be on my bucket list. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be brilliant. It would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I did a convention at the Space Centre 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, and I loved it. It's just an amazing place, and I'm just looking forward to taking my grandkids, because they'll knock them out.
Anytime you want to come, bring them. They are more than welcome, and I'll make sure the Dalek's there for them as well.
Okay.
There we go. We've done a deal. It's in print. Everybody's heard it, so it has to happen now. If you want it to, so that's completely there for you to decide.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So Stuart on Facebook would like to know, if you could appear in a story with one other Doctor, who would you choose? So any Doctor from all the periods. Obviously, you've worked as opposite Capaldi, but would you choose another?
Well, I can't count Peter because I've already worked with Peter, and it was one of the great pleasures of my career. And I've worked with Matt, of course, on the Spaceship one. And but for me, I think my favourite Doctor in the early years was always Tom Baker, and I think he always will be. But because well, let's face it, William Hartnell set the template for all the Doctors. He created that character, and I know it's been brought to life by other actors over the years, but they all, I think, owe something to Hartnell because he had that childlike curiosity of the universe and everything in it as his Doctor, and that kind of playfulness and slight eccentricity. And for me, because probably at the time when I watched it most avidly was when Tom was playing it in the 70s. God, I must have been out of work.
I love Tom Baker, and I love the stories, but I also love the fact that every single Doctor has brought something different to the role. You know,
Yeah,
they've all got something
yeah,
even for cosplayers, the costumes and the difficulty and various things. But certainly Tom
yeah,
was brilliant to watch.
yeah.
So I might have to sign into BritBox tonight and go and watch a couple of episodes. We've got a lot of questions that have come in that aren't about Doctor Who specifically, but Marissa on Twitter would like to know, I have loved your characters in Harry Potter, Game of Thrones and Doctor Who, but do you have a favourite? There you go. It's like picking your favourite child all over again. Do you have a
It
favourite?
is. It's exactly that, and I couldn't possibly because I've enjoyed them all for different reasons, and the fact that they are very different, and that's the best thing for an actor. But you know, never having been typecast into a certain kind of role, I've been grateful for anything that's been thrown at me that's been just very diverse, and those parts were all as different as chalk and cheese, and I've enjoyed them all. So it would be because the Harry Potter thing was over 10 years, and my at times my involvement in some of the films was more, sometimes less. Sometimes I did a few weeks, and sometimes I did 3 or 4 months in terms of the days filming. And I suppose Adventure in Space and Time was probably the richest experience because it was a one-off, and because it was we did it. I think it was a 90-minute TV film in about 2.5 weeks or something ridiculous. And I just don't know. When I think back, I think, how did we do that in that time under the conditions that the original was shot in with some of the original cameras? And because it was so concentrated, it never felt like a pressure job. We had to get this scene in on time because producers are behind you, counting them, looking at the budget and looking at their watches. There was nothing like that at all, and neither, I dare say, it was the same. The same with Potter. They knew that to create the best atmosphere, um, it had to be a relaxed, no rush, but get on with it, you know. And we did, and we're again with Game of Thrones. The people around you, you're dealing with the best lighting people, the best costume people, the best sound departments, because these are big things, you know, the three that you mentioned. And so you're working with great people, as well as not only great actors, but the best technicians. So as long as you've done your homework and you know what you're doing, um, when you step onto the set, then it can be just a pleasure. And I say all three of them were great for different reasons. So I'm sorry I can't give a more definite answer because that's the way it is.
No, absolutely. We get a lot of questions that ask people to pick their favourites of something, and it is
Yeah,
like trying to pick your favourite child because
yeah,
from my point of view, watching them, they're very different characters. But I'm sure. I mean, you mentioned just then that Harry Potter was a 10-year journey. That must have been
yeah,
like growing up with a family.
yeah. And you see these young 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids, whatever they were, just these polite youngsters, and then next time you see them, the year after, and on it goes until they're young adults, and suddenly instead of a polite good morning, Mr. Bradley, they're giving you the high five, and you think, come off it, I remember.
Yeah, you know all the secrets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But great kids, and of course, going into the Harry Potter set every morning you went in, you were just swapping gossip in between scenes with Mike Gambon or Maggie Smith and or Rickman, God bless him, and because I knew a lot of these people from the Royal Shakespeare Company years before in the 70s and 80s. So it was a mixture of old friends and some new people that were always happy to share a coffee and a gossip with in between. So it was great. It was always a pleasure to go in.
Oh, you mentioned Alan Rickman there. I'm miss him very much. Um, Great
Yeah,
guy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And that leads us on nicely to the next question. So, Nadia on Instagram has said, I've been lucky enough to see you on stage and screen. Which do you prefer?
Oh, Nadia, I wonder what you saw.
She
Um,
hasn't put what she saw. Sorry, she just said she's been lucky enough. So, obviously, she enjoyed it.
oh, yes. Well, I have to say I started off in theatre, and I spent a lot of years with the RSC and with the National Theatre, and I thought, well, I never even thought about getting a break on TV or on the screen. It never entered my head, like this was a stepping stone to something with a bigger global audience. It never occurred to me, and I was very happy doing it. But so to get a break in a big series like, so, well, Our Friends in the North was the first one. That was in 73, 74. And and I've been very fortunate, I've been offered lots of screen work in the intervening years, and whereas I always thought acting was all about theatre. Ian McKellen said acting is theatre acting's for pleasure, screen acting pays the mortgage. Um, I can't. I don't quite agree with Ian on that one because I've found I've just enjoyed it just as much, if not more, at times, especially with really good writing. That's what it comes down to. If you're used to doing Shakespeare and Chekhov and Pinter, um, you get spoiled. So when you get a good TV or a series or a film that's really good writing, you think, oh, hang on, this is just as much fun as working in the theatre. So I, I'm happy to go back to theatre. In fact, I did last Christmas. I did a one-man Christmas carol at Little Theatre in Chipping Norton to a socially distanced audience, which was strange looking out at um, huge gaps in the auditorium and people wearing masks. But it reminded me of why I came into the business, because it was just a great piece of, again, Charles Dickens, one man playing all those parts, and I thought, oh, I just loved it, and I thought I'd like to do more of it again because I hadn't done it for 10 years. So I enjoy both. Again, it's your favourite child thing.
Yeah, sorry, as I said, we get a lot of questions about favourites. I think a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that you are a RADA trained Shakespearean actor.
Yes. Can't you tell with the posh voice?
I've met a lot of people from RADA that don't have posh voices but are brilliant
I
actors.
know, I know. They tried to get me to get rid of my northern accent, but it failed miserably. It just didn't suit me. So, but I enjoyed my time there enormously. But,
Yeah, a bit of received pronunciation, darling.
yeah, yeah.
And
Preparing you for the theatre. Yes.
completely agree with you. We've spoken to lots of fantastic guests this week, and everybody has said good writing is where it starts, and then
Yeah.
yeah, so that's great. And Charles Dickens, we were very lucky. His many times great grandson goes around and does one man shows, and until I saw him do A Christmas Carol at the Guildhall in Leicester, I wasn't aware that Charles Dickens wrote those stories to be performed by an actor who would travel around and play them. And it's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if there's one, if there's one Doctor Who experience I could have, I've just realised it would be to be able to go back to see him perform it itself, which he did. He toured the world.
Yeah.
He went to America and I think Australia, and then he did live performances of the Christmas Carol hundreds of times, and it must have been absolutely exhausting for him. But he was an actor and an amateur magician just as much as he was a writer. An astonishing man.
Yeah, and some of the one-man shows that we've seen have just been brilliant. So I wish
Yeah.
I'd been in Chipping Norton to see that at Christmas. It sounds brilliant.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping to get it off the ground again, so at some point. But
Fingers crossed. I will.
with a full audience next time, hopefully, once the coast is clear.
I shall be following on Twitter to find out.
Okay.
Right, we've got a different show for you now with the question. So Barry on Facebook has said, when I read The Colour of Magic, you were Cohen the Barbarian, so your casting was perfection. Did you enjoy playing the role, and had you read any Terry Pratchett previously?
I did enjoy playing the role because he's known as Conan the Barbarian. So any character that's called Cohen the Barbarian, the title of the name of the character just made me laugh, And so I had a great time playing it. And no, I hadn't read any of Terry's books, but he actually made a small appearance in The Colour of Magic. And so I met him on the set, and it was great working with David Jason, of course, and I absolutely loved it. I had to go for a fitting for these gums to put over my own teeth, so he looked as though he had no teeth. It was easier than taking my own teeth out with pliers. So I just remembered a line when they asked Cohen the Barbarian, "What's the secret to a long life?" And he said, "Hot water, good dentistry, and soft lavatory paper."
That is brilliant. Thank you.
And you read that in a script, and you go, "Oh, can't wait."
And I think if you're asking an actor to remove their teeth with pliers for the role, it's just taking it a little bit too far.
First question, what's the money like?
Yeah, I mean, it's like method acting 101.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, that's fine. We've got another favourite question for you, so I'm going to change it slightly. So David on Facebook, another David, would like to know, other than your roles in Doctor Who, what is the favourite role you have played in your career so far? So the most memorable, or something that you've done so far that could be your favourite?
Well, I suppose the last one, because it was the last one before I did the Christmas Carol, the last one I did over 10 years ago was the RSC did a production of Titus Andronicus. And it was my first title role in the main theatre at Stratford-on-Avon. And to play a leading Shakespeare part, which is, it was so bloody, it was like the Reservoir Dogs of its day. And in fact, the stuff that happened in Titus Andronicus was echoed quite a bit in Game of Thrones, because he cuts the throats of these two young guys who mutilated his daughter. He cuts them up and presents them in a pie to their mother, and she opens the pie and she sees a finger and realizes it's one of her boys, and that's exactly what happened in Game of Thrones. So the scriptwriter, or rather George Martin, obviously had Titus Andronicus in mind. So, mind you, he wouldn't be the first writer to have got an idea from Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think there's worse places you can get an idea from than Shakespeare. I was very lucky.
Yeah.
I got to play Tamora, Queen of the Goths, so I know.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I know how much fun you can have with that particular play. So yes,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
You can let all of your rage out. It is a fantastic play.
Yes, and it's also the moments of humour in it as well, and just to be on that main stage playing this great part, it was a highlight, I have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got to perform it with a great cast as well, and I think once you do that with like-minded people, it's such an enjoyable thing to do. I think a lot of the time.
Where did you do that then?
Oh, in Northampton, where I went to college there and trained there. So nothing as impressive as you have done, I assure you. But I think we all learn Shakespeare at school, and everybody always thinks it's dry and boring. But the reality is, it's phenomenal. The language, everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's lovely when you take people along with you and they say, "Oh, I didn't realise Shakespeare could be, as accessible as that."
Well, I'm glad you picked that one. From Shakespeare to cats, it's a natural transition. Karen on Instagram would like to know, do you like cats and did you get on well with Mrs. Norris?
I love cats. We've had at one time we had 4 cats in the family, but we've always had 1 or 2 over the years. Not recently, I have to say, after the 4th one of the family cats passed on, we kind of left it because we missed them so much. But having said that, my son and his wife and little boy are coming to live with us in a week or 2 and they're bringing their cat with them. So we'll be looking forward to welcoming India into the home for a while. And yes, I did love Mrs. Norris. There were actually 2. We had 2 identical cats, Max and Alanis, as in Morissette. And there were 2 Maine Coon cats that lived with their trainers, and we yes, I mean I could do anything with them. They would just run up my chest and sit on my head occasionally, and I'm sure there's some brilliant outtakes somewhere of them just running riot over my willing frame, and we just got on so well, and I felt really comfortable with them, and they would follow me around if necessary, because they knew there's going to be some food at the end of it. So they're very bright cats, and we enjoyed working with each other. Yeah.
Must have been a bit like a zoo or a petting farm on Harry Potter, what with the owls and the cats and the werewolves.
Yeah.
Creatures everywhere. So Colin on Facebook, talking about Harry Potter, Colin has asked, in the Harry Potter books, your character is learning magic by a correspondence course. If you could do magic, what would be your first spell?
Who could I disappear? Uh, in fact, I'd like to disappear myself. A lot of people would probably wish that as well. No, I think I'd like one of those invisibility clothes, and maybe a little one for Mrs. Norris. I mean, it depends if I'm asked if it's for me or for Mr. Filch.
Oh, he hasn't specified. He's just said, that if you could do magic, what would be your first spell? So it could be you.
Yeah.
It could be your
Well, if it
character.
was for Mr. Filch, an invisibility cloak, so he could spy on the kids, and it'd be easier to hand out detentions and punishments without having to show himself and hide behind corners and lurk. He wouldn't have to lurk so much. He could. But for myself, um, it would be I suppose, the Doctor Who trick of time travel. That would be nice.
Oh, you could
Would
go
that be
anywhere.
allowed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
time travel magic. Hermione has that, doesn't she, in her time turner necklace? So there you
All
go.
right. Yeah. Well, I'd like that facility.
Oh, I'm sure we could just take the necklace. It'll be fine. You will get your necklace.
Okay.
Right, going back slightly because I've messed the questions up a little bit. Lauren on Instagram would like to know, we know you love Shakespeare, we've just spoken about it, and you mentioned Titus Andronicus, but if you could play any Shakespearean role, which would it be?
Oh, that's easy. King Lear.
That's it, it's just King Lear, full stop, that's it, underline.
Full stop. It's something I understudied. I did a tour of it with the National Theatre about 30 years ago, and with Brian Cox and Ian McKellen. Brian was playing Lear, Ian was playing Kent, and I was playing the Fool. And I got to understudy the part of Lear. And so I studied it a lot, and of course I learnt it, and I actually went on for one performance at Nottingham Theatre Royal, and I loved it so much. I thought I'd love to. That'd be nice to have a go at this one day, but so far it hasn't happened. But yeah, but yeah, I'm afraid it's a very short answer because it's.
No, it's if you've always had an aspiration to play that role. I've already said this once this week, but I want to play Lady Bracknell in The Importance of Being Earnest,
Oh.
just to do the one line, just to say a handbag. That's it. I just want it for that one line and the cucumber sandwiches, obviously. But
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh no, that's a good one for you. Yeah.
we all
Well,
have
I hope.
aspirations.
Yeah. Well, we should maybe do a double bill,
King
of
Lear and The Importance of Being
King
Earnest. Now
Lear
that's
and
a
the
double
Important.
bill.
Yeah, with the same cast playing main both. Yeah,
Oh, I like those. Yes.
yeah. There you go. Anyway, if
But
anybody's out there,
any casting directors out there right now, cast.
yeah,
We need a King Lear. I haven't
yeah,
seen one touring recently, so yeah, that would make sense.
that's right. Hasn't been one for a couple of years. Usually, there's like two a year. It's been like London buses. So, but none have come by lately, have they? No.
Well, theatre needs revitalising after all the things that they've gone through recently, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah.
Harriet on Instagram, David again on Facebook would like to know, which is the hardest role you have ever played and what made it difficult?
Oh, I think. Well, I'll probably have to go back to Titus because it demanded so much physically and emotionally and vocally. And because Shakespeare never wrote easy parts for actors, but some were more challenging than others. And so I can only assume his leading actor in the Globe Theatre Company. I mean, he would have played Hamlet, Macbeth, Lear, and Titus, and these were written for his star actor at the time. If he knew the actors weren't up to it, he wouldn't have written them for them specifically. So, and each one of them is a challenge, and for me, that was the most challenging one I've had so far. So because
Challenging but enjoyable.
yes, that's right. Yeah,
I think we have the two together.
yeah.
Right, Harriet on Instagram has said, your character was responsible for one of the most shocking twists on television, the Red Wedding. How did you keep it secret, and what was the reaction like afterwards? She also asked, did you enjoy playing the part, and do you ever serve pies at dinner parties?
Oh, that's in several parts, that question. I wasn't conscious of keeping it a secret but I didn't see it coming when they sent me the script. I should have, because I haven't read any of George's books, but I did that first episode, um, and I thought, oh well, that's it. That was fun, and it only took 2 or 3 days to do, and then friends said, oh, he comes back. Walter Frey comes back later on. I said, oh right, okay. And what I should have done, I should have read the books and find out what happened. But I was, fortunately for me, busy working in other things, and so I didn't have a lot of reading time. So it was a great surprise when this script popped through the door. I thought, wow, this is appalling, but funny. And I found it funny, I'm ashamed to say. And I probably enjoyed playing it a little too much. Um, but the reaction to it afterwards, my daughter sent me YouTube clippings of people responding to it from all around the world, and they were their friends. You might have seen some of these clips, Malik, but they set their friends up watching the scene, and they weren't expecting anything, and they're just sitting there, just staring at the screen. Then suddenly, the Rains of Castlemere starts playing in the background, and all you can see is them sitting on the sofa, and suddenly they're jumping on their feet, hurling obscene language at me, and just walking out the room, swearing, coming back to the kitchen, and standing up, almost throwing stuff at the TV. You know, it's like a football result gone terribly wrong, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And they're coming from all over the place, and there were lots of them. And taxi drivers were winding down the windows and shouting at me, I can't forgive you, mate. You know, and for some reason, it surprised me because I thought it's a TV show and people. And then when it came top in the list of most horrific moments on TV, I was really really chuffed. I have to say, very nice. And and people still talk about that scene, and I just I loved playing it. It was just a treat because all I had to do was a 4-page speech. And that was the challenge, welcoming everyone and sweet talking them and making them think they were all in for a good time and it was going to be a lovely wedding. Then suddenly, just a little nod up to the musicians' gallery and the crossbows start coming out. And all I had to do was just sit there with a goblet of wine, enjoying it. So that bit was easy. But yes, it was. Uh, I'm very proud to have been in the show and to have been responsible for upsetting an awful lot of people.
You did. I'm sorry. I was a massive Game of Thrones fan, and social media lit up literally the moment the first arrow was shot. I mean, there was all kinds of conspiracy theories beforehand. Everybody had a theory what was going to happen, but nobody.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody saw it coming. You played it
No,
so well.
thanks. And I wasn't on social media at the time. I'm on Twitter now, but
Yeah.
at the time I wasn't just aware. It was just until I got started being sent these little clips, you know, that really took me back.
Your phone would have melted that night if you had been on Twitter at the time. I just remember lots of friends messaging. It was very good. And yeah. So and do you serve pies at dinner parties? Was the last part of that question.
dinner parties.
Well, maybe we haven't
For
had
some
any recently.
reason, for some reason, I don't get invited to them. Well, that's for the last year, for obvious reasons, of course. But people sometimes say, if they're coming around, they say, it's not finger food, is it? Or whatever.
That's a better one. It's not finger food. That's better than pies. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
We're
But
coming. We're
yeah, I
coming
get
to.
a few jokes about what you're serving up and everything. But yeah, it's great.
We're coming to the end. We've got a couple more questions for you. So Kennedy on Instagram has said you have worked with some huge names like Harold Pinter, but who would you like to have worked with? Anybody in history or anybody who's alive now?
As an actor,
Yes.
well, I've worked with a lot of great people. Movie actors who I admire enormously, those who don't appear to be doing anything at all, and then you see them on the screen and they appear that they're doing everything, but they're doing it in such a minimalist way. Everything's in the eyes, and you think, oh, you learn a lot from people like Michael Caine and Dustin Hoffman and people like that. And but for me, the greatest actor ever, and I got to work with him, was Laurence Olivier. He was my boss for a couple of years at the National. But there are two people that I've always wanted to work with and never got the chance. One of them was Judi Dench, and the other one was Albert Finney. But that's not going to happen now, unfortunately. So he was another hero because Finney was the first actor I ever saw in the cinema in the 1960s, starring in a film, and he had a northern accent, and he worked in a factory in Saturday night and Sunday morning, and he worked on a lathe in a machine shop, exactly the same as what I was working on when I saw the film. I thought, bloody hell, you can be an actor and talk like that. And he was suddenly became a movie star, and it was a time that was a good time for all of us from outside the London centric business as it was to realize that working class lads and lasses were getting leading parts in films. Rita Sushingham, she was another one, Tom Courtenay, Alan Bates, and people from the north, Liverpool, Nottingham, Yorkshire, Lancashire, wherever. And that was one of the first things that made me think, oh, maybe I could have a go at this. You know. So he was an inspiration, was Albert Finney, but unfortunately, sadly, I never met him. And Judi Dench, I've met her socially a few times, and I just think she's brilliant, and I'd like to work with her. So that's my top two.
Well, another Shakespearean actor, so you never know. We could talk to that casting person again and see what we could do.
Yeah, yeah.
And our absolute final question we have is: do you have any projects coming up that we can look forward to?
Well, I've got I'm doing the final series of Afterlife with Ricky Gervais. I've got a third series of Britannia that I filmed just before Christmas, and that'll be coming out sometime this year. I'm doing a film of Pinocchio, an animated version with Guillermo del Toro, and that'll be coming out sometime this summer, they hope. And I'm playing Geppetto, and he's got quite a cast, you know, with Kate Blanchett and Ewan McGregor and other people, and some Americans like Christoph Waltz. So that's very exciting to be part of that. I think that's.
I think
a couple of there's another thing that I'm not allowed to talk about because I've
Ah,
signed a confidentiality clause.
oh,
But
okay. You could tell us, but you'd
yeah,
have to kill us.
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, just dropping a few names like Guillermo del Toro in there. I mean, let's. I think that'll do.
Well, yeah, but I worked with him on a thing called The Strain. I don't
Yeah.
know if people, yeah, and I was in Canada, and he got me in to play a leading role in that series, and he's asked me again. So that's always nice when a director comes back to work with you again, and he's a genius,
Yeah.
really. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the fact that he asks you to come back and do stuff again means that you are too.
yeah.
So,
And I just did a series called Tales of Arcadia with him, which is like a spin-off from Troll Hunters. And I did a voice, I played Merlin as the voice of Merlin for that. And I hate to blow my own trumpet, but I'm going to. And I just won an Annie Award for the best voiceover, um, which is held in LA. And I'm still waiting for the award to come through in the post, but it's for animated films, and I won Best Actor in Voice. So
that's not your first award, though. You've won other awards.
yeah, yeah. But I've never had one for an Annie. That's really nice. Yeah.
No, that is brilliant and so well deserved. And like I
Yeah.
say, you've just
So
mentioned
if you
some
get a
amazing
chance,
names.
for fans out there, if you get a chance to check out Tales of Arcadia that Guillermo del Toro is producing, it's a good one for kids, slightly older kids as well as adults.
So it's called Tales of Arcadia.
Yeah, and I think it's on Netflix. And as I say, it was originally called Troll Hunters, and it's got great cast, and it's got but anyway, so I've been part of some nice things in the last few years. Anyway,
No, they all sound brilliant. And we will check them out. And I'm sure that everybody will now be heading to Netflix post haste or first class post haste to go and find out more about that show. So thank you very much. And a huge thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and support the event. It is very much appreciated. Thank you for talking with us. It's been brilliant.
Okay, well, I'll see you at the next convention, hopefully.
Oh, fingers crossed. You are always welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the fantastic David Bradley joining us at Brit Sci-Fi. Don't forget, check out all of the links that we've been posting below, and we'll post at the end, and we'll post in the comments if you'd like to do a one-to-one chat or get a personalised autograph and support our fantastic guests. Once again, thank you to everybody who has participated. We hope you enjoy the rest of the festival, and we really do look forward to you joining us at the National Space Centre again very soon. Thank you.